I'm Cal Newport. I want to talk to you about my time block planner. Most people organize their workday with a reactive approach. They fire up their inbox, they look at Slack, and just try to keep up with everything that's incoming. The problem with this approach is that you will never feel like you're going to get it all done, and the urgent will push aside the important. With time block planning, by contrast, we flip this script. You decide how you want to spend your time, and that makes all the difference. Let's take a look at how this works. Now, when you open the planner, what you are going to see is what we call the daily pages. These are 2 pages that face each other. Every day that you plan will have its own pair of daily pages. Now, the first thing you're going to do, and this should be the first thing in the morning, is go over to your right-hand page, which we call the time block grid, and on here we are going to build a time block plan. Now, I want to note it's important that we're using paper here. Yes, we could come up with an app or a website for doing what we're about to do, but I don't want you on your computer when you don't need to be. I want this to be an activity that happens in isolation of all other types of work. So let's try this out. I'm going to put the date, and then I'm going to take the left-hand side of this grid and mark every solid line with the hours during which I plan to work today. So for this example, let's just start it at 9 a.m. and we'll go up to 3 p.m. All right, now we're going to take this first column and actually do time blocking. The basic idea here is quite simple. You are going to assign work to specific times during the day. So let's say I have a report that I'm working on that is important, and so I want to get started on this first thing in the morning when my concentration is best. I've just blocked off the first 90 minutes of the day, 9 to 10:30, and I've labeled it with what I'm going to do. Now let's say after this, maybe I need to get some email done, so I'll mark that here. Now maybe I have a meeting that lasts from 11 to 12:30, so I will just label that here. Obviously in a real schedule, I'd note who this meeting is with. Maybe after this, I want to come back and finish up my report. Again, this is just a sample plan. Have a late lunch. And I might at this point realize there are some tasks that I need to get done. Maybe they're time sensitive or it's just things I'm trying to make progress on. They might not take long, so maybe I'm giving myself just 30 minutes to do these tasks. But I'm faced with the physical problem of not having enough room in the block on the page to actually write out the task that, in this example, I want to do between 2 and 2:30. Simple fix for that. I label the block with a number, I go to the upper right, and I elaborate what happens during that block. And so on. Then maybe I finish the day with a whole bunch of emailing. This is a good point for me to step back and answer the question of why do I use this approach to scheduling my day? Well, there's a few advantages for time blocking. First of all, when you take control of your time, you look at all of the time that is available and make the decision, what is the best way to allocate this time? You're going to get more done, and you're going to get things done at a higher quality because you're moving things around to make optimal use of the time that's available. Maybe you're filling in small gaps with tasks that you otherwise would have just lost to web surfing. Maybe you know certain times of your day you're more productive for certain types of work, so you can schedule the time there. Once you get intentional about what's the best way to make use of all the time available, a lot more can get done. Now, 2, when you are running your day off of a time block plan, you know what you are supposed to be doing at any given moment. This makes you much less likely to web surf or get lost on a social media rabbit hole because you know that if you give in to distraction, you are going to fall behind. You're going to bust your schedule for the day. The third advantage why I love time block planning is that you get a very realistic sense of how long things actually take. You might tell yourself that working on these reports takes 90 minutes, but if day after day you try that and you blow way past that time on your time block plan, you are forced to confront that reality and you learn pretty quickly, okay, reports take 2 hours, and you can adjust accordingly. You also realize how much time you actually have available. So if you're in the habit of just saying yes to every meeting request that comes your way, every time someone emails you and say, let's jump on a call, you will confront that reality in your time block plan when you see that there is only really small slivers left for actual work. In my experience, people who time block plan get on average around 2 times more done per day than their colleagues who don't. Now let's return back to this time block we have. A common problem is that you might bust your schedule, as I mentioned. Let's say, for example, that this meeting that was supposed to last from 11 to 12:30 runs over. You just fix the schedule, and you do so in the next column over. So in my discipline, I take the block that runs over, and I redraw it to reflect how long it actually took. And next time I get a chance, I fix the schedule in this column for the time that remains. So maybe when I see this meeting ran long, I realize I don't have enough time here to really make good progress on this report. So why don't I just do my lunch, and I will get my tasks done, and I'll relabel that, and I'll keep this, in this example, with email. And then I go to the original column and cross out the part of the schedule that's no longer valid. Now again, if in this corrected schedule you go over, you just draw a new schedule for the time that remains in the next column. If you go over there, you draw a new schedule in the time that remains in the next column. Key here is not to hit your schedule no matter what. It's to make sure that you fix your schedule when you fall off of it. You don't get a prize for accuracy, you get a prize for intention. You always want there to be a plan for what you want to do with the time that remains. Now let's look at the second of the 2 pages that you will use each day. The bulk of this page is dedicated to collection. So if you are executing your time block schedule, you're locked into whatever you're trying to do, and a task pops to your mind or an idea comes up, you can put these right here in the collection pages without having to fire up your computer, without having to look at your inbox, without having to load up any applications. So maybe I realize I need to buy whatever, food. There we go. I remember that. It's a good thing to remember. I write it here, and I can get right back to the task that I'm executing. This allows you to stay focused in your blocks without having to interact with unnecessary technologies. Now, above the collection bins, we have this space for daily metrics. This is another part of the extended time blocking discipline that I recommend. At the end of your day, you should keep a record of the key behaviors that make a difference in you succeeding in your professional life. A lot of my readers like to track how many hours they spent that day doing deep work. So maybe they write the word DW, an abbreviation for deep work, and have a simple tally of how many hours of deep work they actually completed. Maybe if you're in sales, to give another example, the number of cold calls you make is crucial, and you want a record of this. And so maybe you use an abbreviation like CC for cold calls, and you did 5, and you do a quick recording of that in your daily metric space. I'm a big believer in using these daily metrics because, first of all, it gives you a record of how your days are going. But more importantly, there is a psychological inducement embedded into this practice, because as you go through this day, as you realize that you're going to have to record in black and white at the end of the day how many hours of deep work you did, how many cold calls you made, that will give you that little nudge of encouragement you need to actually do those activities, because you do not want to put a big 0 in that space where it can't be ignored. Now, the final thing I recommend, this is a big part of my extended system, is that when you're done recording your metrics, you're done with your day, you indicate that to yourself by putting an X right in the middle of the shut down complete checkbox. Now, why does this work? Well, later in the night when your mind tries to get anxious, it says, I don't know, we should think about tomorrow. Do we have a plan? What's happening tomorrow? Is it a good day? Is it a bad day? Are we set? Are we missing something? You don't have to engage with that rumination. You can say, I checked this box next to this semi-ridiculous phrase. And I would not have done that if I had not actually gone through a whole shutdown ritual. So I do not have to engage with that work anxiety rumination. I can go back to doing what I was doing. This seems like a simple idea, but it has a profound impact on reducing work-related anxiety. Then you close your planner and you're done for the day. Now, the system may seem simple, but its impact on both your productivity and your happiness will be profound.